Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi Thorn Alliance. I'm Jacob,
And I'm Luke.
and in today's video, we are reviewing Ted Lasso Season 2 on Apple TV Plus. Comment down below your thoughts about Season 2. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Subscribe, it helps out the channel. And I guess to start off with, kind of discuss thoughts. And I guess if you are a fan of Season 1 comparing to Season 2, I would probably say you'll have mixed emotions, because Season 2 I thought was definitely funny. It got you engaged with the characters, and it did a good job. You laughed, it's a very relaxing show. You enjoyed the concept. Season 2 is definitely a lot more emotional. It deals with mental health issues. It deals with suicide. It's just a lot darker, I guess. If you weren't expecting that, you might not like it as much. It's still a good season, but I just feel like comparing the two, you might not like it as much as Season 1 individually. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it went a bit of a different direction, which was fine. It was good. I did like the season. I'm going to give it a good rating. Ted Lasso Season 1 was a show I really loved. I saw it maybe the end of last year or the start of this year, like only not too long ago, and it was one of the coolest concepts that I've seen for a show, and I really, really liked it. I didn't know how it could have multiple seasons, and it has. And again, this season's ended, and it's left on a cliffhanger that now leads to what will be a third season, so it's finding a way to keep going. It's a show about soccer. You don't necessarily have to like soccer, because it doesn't focus on the soccer. But as Jacob mentioned, Season 2 was very character focused, where Season 1 I thought was very, focused on the soccer and the behind the scenes scheming to try and get this team relegated, and trying to build, Ted to try and be loved by his players, but then other people finding reasons to dislike Ted. Where I think this season was not necessarily about that. It was more about the characters, and as Jacob said, mental health was a major focus.
So start basically recapping. They from how Season 1 ended, they basically got relegated. So basically that's they were in Division 1, the Premier League, and then they go from Division 2, and they're kind of struggling at the moment. They've had a couple of draws, what's good in a certain way because it's not losses, but it's also bad because it's not wins. So it's they started off probably not good. So basically in the first match that we get to see, the Mexican players basically having a shot at goal, and then we get to see him take the shot, and then this dog, because the Richmond their mascot is a dog, so the dog is running, and then a freak accident happens. The goal doesn't go through it. He accidentally hits the dog, and I think it leads up to a certain character to be able to come in the show. But would that happen in a sporting event? I don't think
it's
so.
a freak accident, and it opens up the door for them to bring in a sports psychologist, because he then feels he's lost his mojo. He can't play anymore because he's killed this animal. So then the sports psychologist comes in, who plays a role throughout the series. So what, they had the 8 ties in a row, and they need to try and break the streak. They bring the sports psychologist in. We get to see Roy Kent come back into the show as one of their coaches. Then they start to get on a roll and start winning, to eventually they find themselves, I think it was a semi-final of the FA Cup, which is a knockout comp between all the divisions in the English soccer, and they come up against Manchester City, which is, if you follow soccer, they're they're not doing too well at the moment, but they are the wealthy club that buys all the top players. So they come up against them. What happens there?
Basically, they're hoping to do well, but was kind of hoping that it was going to be a close game because their last game was a close game, but they absolutely get smashed.
Yeah, I think might be 5-0 or something. They get beaten, and that creates a bit of drama from that, and that backlash. A lot of supporters are angry at them for that. Jamie Tart, who was playing for Manchester City, has moved back to Richmond. And we follow the rest of the season. It follows this storyline of them now trying to get promoted back in. They've had a bit of success. They've got their sports psychologist that's helping them out. And they're trying to get back into it and win, which comes to an inevitable conclusion at the end. But then what the show does is it tends to have all these one-offs, episodes, spin-offs, these random storylines. So what are some of the random storylines we get throughout the series that lead to this inevitable final game of soccer?
Well, one of the storylines is this dating app that gets invented. So one of the soccer players, Sam, uses it, and then we get to see someone else use it as well, and then
it's a surprising matchup that you wouldn't pick. We get a Christmas episode which you're a bit iffy on. Which I don't know, I guess the message of that episode is that about family and coming together and Ted's family being overseas, but it doesn't add a whole lot to the storyline. The Beard gets his own full episode, which was probably one of the coolest of the series.
Yeah, that was probably the funniest episode.
Yeah, so that follows their loss to Manchester City, and he goes on a night out drinking, and we get to...
With the fans.
Yeah, he hangs out with the 3 fans that we see throughout the 2 seasons that hang out at the pub, but never actually go to the games. I don't know what that is. But they always watch at the pub. So we get a bit of story to them. I guess we get another kind of episode that heavily focuses on Sam and a wealthy businessman wanting to buy him to come play for his
Nigeria.
Side. Yeah, in Nigeria. And there's lots of little cool random episodes, but in the end we come to this climax where they are playing in the final game and they need to win or draw to go up to the Premier League. And we won't spoil it in this section, but that's how the season concludes. And then we're left with a cliffhanger of a favourite character becoming a villain. So, moving into spoilers. Let's give it a verdict first.
Yes.
What are you thinking?
Even though there's some nitpicks, I just think the characters and the magic, it's just a feel-good show. I think Ted Lasso, even though you could say the actor might be annoying or it's weird that he has his American in England, I think it's just a show that you can put on and it makes you feel good when you've had a bad day or something like that. So I think it gets a well-deserved 4.
Yeah. I was actually going to give it the same. I think it's a 4 because it's a show that I would confidently recommend to anyone and think they're going to like this. I can't think of too many people that aren't going to like something about it. It's funny, the storyline's good enough. It's not heavily focused on the soccer, so if you're not a big fan of soccer, that doesn't matter. I think Jason Sudeikis is just awesome as Ted in his show. I love his dad jokes, I love his accent, I love everything he does in it. It just makes the show fun. I think the group of players they select all have their unique quirks. There's not much to dislike about it. I couldn't give it a higher rating than a 4 because it is just a simple comedy that's meant to make you laugh. It's not a masterpiece, but it's good at what it does, and I'd happily recommend it to anyone. So it's a 4 for me as well. So let's talk about some focal points of the season. So assuming you've watched it, because there's going to be some spoilers here, let's go with the ending first. What do you think, how the season ends?
Did they really need to make Nathan out to be like that? He was such a beloved character. Now he's my least liked character, and he's basically arsehole. I'm sorry to say.
I think it became throughout the season. He became less likable. He became arrogant when he had some success.
And a bullier as well. If you notice, he bullied the person that had his job, and we're meant to feel sorry for him because Ted didn't recognise him. But it's like, aren't you contradicting yourself?
Yeah, he was a bully the whole way. Thought he was a big celebrity. Got upset when restaurants wouldn't give him the best spot in the house. He kissed Keely. He's trying to steal someone's girl. He wanted Ted's job, and then worst of all, he dobbed in Ted to the newspaper and told them about Ted's panic attack, which created really bad publicity for the team. And then we're left with him being the villain, ripping up their Believe sign, and then getting a job with another team who'd been bought by Richmond's previous owner, the previous husband of Rebecca. So that's where you imagine season 3 goes, with them creating a rivalry with West Ham, and he's left being a villain. But he did throughout the season become very unlikable, but I thought he was going to turn it around and kind of apologise and come to like him again, but he didn't.
Do you feel like they did it as well because there were too many coaches? Like, there's Roy Kent, there's the Beard, there's Ted, and there's himself. So there's like 4. Like, that's a pretty big coaching staff. Or...
I think so. I guess that it does 2 things. It creates a reason for the next season, a realistic enemy, and it takes away one less character that's in the coaching role, because it was getting a bit heavy. Many coaches. Next talking point. What about the
dating app?
Yeah, the dating app. I guess. Well, what are your thoughts on this banter app that they try to push throughout the show?
It was cool, but did we really need to see Sam date, the boss? To me, it was nice that they had that relationship, but I don't know, to me it was kind of like, who's Ted going to go out with next? A psychiatrist? Or I don't know, it just felt weird.
Well, they've really, throughout season 1, you thought Ted was going to be with Rebecca, but nothing came of it. And then I thought maybe when we had the Christmas episode, season 2, it was building towards that again. And then, and then again, we thought that she was talking to him on this dating app, because the dating app, you couldn't share photos, you could only talk. But then it turned out to be Sam, which I'm not opposed to that idea. I just thought it would have been like a funny thing for them to laugh off and go, oh, yep, this will never work. But Sam was really, really interested in her and pushed for it. And I just think it was a weird couple. Maybe the age, maybe because one's a boss and one's the player. I think that it didn't really lead to anything in the end. It was, what did it add to the show?
Do you think it's more to be in there to show that older women can date younger men, because we know older men date younger women? Or
yeah, there might be a reason for it. If they were trying to say that it was a reason for Sam not to leave to go to Nigeria, I don't think that was the determining factor. I think his team went back into the EPL and he saw that there was fans that loved and adored him in the town, and that's why he stayed. So I don't think her was his reason to not leave. So it was an iffy storyline. What about the return of Roy Kent? I think the first few episodes, I don't know if he featured him at all. Or no, he did, but he
was a commentator.
Yeah, he's a commentator, or you saw a lot of screen time with him and his niece.
Yeah.
But he got a lot of screen time in this show, I reckon, and he became my favourite character.
Yeah, he's mine as well.
I think nearly every person I've talked to said it's his favourite, so where do you think it's going with him and Keely? What is this show setting up?
I don't know.
The season ends with him weirdly booking a 6-week holiday when she's just started a new job, which seems really dumb to me. And then she's like, oh, I'm not going. And then he thought they were splitting up, but then she's like, no, you go on the holiday. We're not splitting up. I just can't go. But they've kind of planted this seed that he might be interested in his niece's teacher, which I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that, but I don't know the reason, because they've really spruced up the fact that Keely loves Roy and Roy loves Keely. So what would their reason for breaking up be? I thought maybe if Jamie Tart got involved, like I thought maybe she was going to realise that she actually loved Jamie, then that would give it reason. But at the moment, there's no reason for them to split up. Um, Other talking points. What about the return of Jamie Tart? Like, he became an enemy in the first season. He was the reason they got relegated, and then he returns and
He's on a show basically like
a Love Island kind of thing, or
yeah, wasn't expecting they were going to do that to his character.
yeah. I always crack up at the stuff he wears. He always dresses really out there. So he leaves, he gets the team relegated, then he comes back and everyone hates him. Like, everyone hates him. One, he was the reason they where they are, but two, he was a terrible person to them. But eventually he becomes likable, he turns it around, and it all kind of starts with Ted's experiment of, so he's Ted Lasso and he becomes Led Tasso. So tell us about Led Tasso.
Basically, it's an alter ego of coaching styles. It's him basically not being his nice chipper self. It's him being angry, basically making the players hate him. So he's the main enemy. So
yeah,
I guess it was cool.
Yeah, he wants to become their common enemy, so they stop hating Jamie, and they all get on board to hating him, and it works. The psychologist, she gets it. She thinks it works. Bringing her up, what do you think about her character and her involvement with Ted and what she added to the show? And do we want to see more of her? Or
I guess it was fine. I guess she helped in a way. Would the show still been good if she wasn't in it? Probably.
I think so. I think I thought she was a bit arrogant. She kept talking about how good she was as a therapist.
Oh yeah.
I guess in terms of, she helped Danny Rojas when he lost his mojo after killing the dog. So she added that, but the dog, she only came into the show because of the dog. So if they didn't add that, then she wasn't needed. I guess she was the reason that we found out about Ted and his father committing suicide, because without her, it probably wouldn't have came out. So maybe that was her role in the show. But I feel like she's gone and not coming back. I don't know if they were trying to make out like Ted was interested in her. I don't know what they were planning to do with that, but she kind of just brought out some information in some characters, but as a character herself wasn't anything special.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, there's things about her that kind of annoyed me. Yeah, I just didn't feel for her. It just didn't add much to the show for me. What do we think about what they wanted for Ted in this series? So it focused on, I don't know, he went a bit erratic with his emotions at times.
Yeah.
He lost his temper with the psychiatrist and got questioned why she charges for 45 minutes but only does an hour session, which is, well, they're not really charging by the hour. They charge for a 45-minute session. That's just what they do, because they need 15 minutes to prepare between sessions. But he made a big deal out of that. And then, his emotions swapped. He had panic attacks. He got upset about his son, not seeing his son. They really made Ted's emotions go all over the shop, which is, I don't know, we're led to believe he's just this happy-go-lucky guy, but then they're adding layers to him. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing.
I don't know. I guess they're trying to say that it's just a persona, and that he can give off this lovable tone to him, but even he has layers to him.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to build for season 3. Are we expecting him to be with someone? Do we want him to end up with Rebecca? Do we want to end up with Rebecca's friend? Do we want him to be with the psychiatrist, or is he not meant to have a love interest? Someone else come into it? Or do we hope that he reunites with his wife and his kid and move over to the UK? I don't know what the show wants us to do. I don't know which option I want, actually. What do you think? Who would you like to see him with, or if anyone?
Maybe Rebecca, but I don't know how that would work.
I'm leaning towards her friend, just because I think that her being his boss creates a bit of an
conflict,
issue. Yeah, I think a friend wouldn't be a bad option. I think her friend seems a lot of fun and would match his personality. What you want to see with this going back to the Roy Kent and Keely? Do we want them to be together, or would you like to see this teacher?
I don't know. Roy Kent seemed to have some chemistry with the teacher, and I don't know. She doesn't seem to be as, I don't want to say needy, but she seemed to be more enjoyable to be around. So I don't know.
And I guess I don't have any reason to dislike Keely. Like, they get on well. She's a good partner to him. So it's hard to want him to be with someone else when the person he's with is completely fine. So I don't know what they're planting for season 3 for that. Okay, so you got any other talking points, or should we have a prediction for season 3?
Do you feel like they deal with mental health issues and suicide well, or do you feel like they changed it from being a funny show and showing soccer for the sake of being different when it's actually, soccer is probably like the minor part of season 2?
I don't know if they do the mental health well. They mention it, they talk about it, so I guess talking about it is doing something, but the way they play it off, like Ted's emotions, the things that are going on in the show, I'm going to say no. I think the short answer is I don't think they do it well, but they don't do it bad. It's just they do it. I guess if they try and do it any better, then does the show become way too focused on mental health? Like, they do need to still keep it lighthearted. So maybe, like, to summarize it, they kind of, the way they blow off the depression that Danny Rojas goes through, he's like, his favourite expression was like, football is life.
Yeah.
But then he's all upset, and then eventually he comes out and he's like, oh, I've realised football is life, but football is also death. And he's happy like that. They made it that simple. You go, oh, well, you know, they're touching on it, but they don't want to go too in depth. So maybe, short answer, did they do it well? No. Did they do it bad? No. They just did it. So I guess you don't want them to go too in depth. Then we take away from the lightheartedness this show has to offer.
And did you like the conclusion of that story, or did you agree with me that I said off camera that, you know, in that situation, realistically, I know it's nice for the story, but realistically, you would give it to your best player because you want to get to the next division. Oh, yeah.
So you're referring to, so they get the penalty goal.
Yes.
Very close to, well, it's in extra time, but there's still seconds remaining. And Jamie Tart gets tripped over, and he, as their best player, decides to give it to Danny Rojas, who's probably as talented as him, but to give it to someone else. For the sake of the story, it's pretty cool. But I think, would it happen? No. Would it still be good if Jamie kicked it? Yes, because you go, oh, he's the guy that got them kicked out of it last year. Then this year he's the reason they're going back. I think that's a better redemption story than giving it to Danny Rojas. And I just think it's weird that if you're the one that got the penalty, why would you give it to someone else?
Yeah.
If Danny got tripped and you go, I'm going to give it to Jamie, you'd go, why is that needed? But the fact that he got the penalty and handed it over, it's like, surely he just takes it. He was the one that got the penalty.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could choose who takes the penalty in soccer.
Yeah,
I thought
it
was the person that got tripped over. Maybe it is. Maybe they just added that for effect. But to answer your question, I think it was unnecessary. I think I would like to have seen Jamie kick it and redeem himself and be the reason that they're now going back up to the top division after being the reason they went down in division.
To play against his former team.
Yeah, I think that would have been a cooler story because we already liked Danny Rojas. He didn't need to be the one. Unless they want to claim that he's redeemed himself after hitting the dog. I think maybe it would have made more sense if before he kicked there was a flashback of the dog.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, football is life and it's also death, and then he like calms himself down and he kicks it. But he sets it up and he just goes, yep, it's in.
We see the Snooter dog as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's I think they missed an opportunity, but I think Jamie should have kicked it and that would have been a more satisfying ending. What's your predictions for season 3?
Well, obviously that now Nathan's gone to the opposition team. They're doing this for rivalry, what I guess is cool. So basically, and I guess talk about for a moment, because his point is they came up with this one play, and then he's like, but you also got to think as well is that the players do the play. So if the players actually did the wrong thing, would he still feel the same way?
Yeah, not sure.
So I think those two are going to have a rivalry, those teams, and I think Roy Kent is going... We're going to see more growth, I guess, from him as a coach, and I guess get more into his mind.
Yeah, I think so. I think season 3 for me is going to be... They're not going to win the EPL. I think that's too far-fetched. I think they will do well. They won't get relegated. I think they will have a rivalry match against West Ham.
Yeah.
And then they'll have a final game against West Ham. And I reckon Nathan will probably swap his alliance back to Richmond. I think they will make him out as he'll be a villain, but I think he'll get mistreated at West Ham. And then he will change his mind and apologise and try and regain his alliance with Richmond and do something with a play or insider information that will help Richmond beat West Ham, and then he'll then return back to Richmond. That's what I'm thinking.
Does he deserve that though? Because I don't know. It's kind of like, well, you abandoned ship, and then when things got tough, you got back because now you're the victim. It's like,
I don't think he deserves it, but I think they will write something similar into there. I think it's annoying character development for him that he was
likable.
Well, yeah, he was the bullied guy. He became likable, and then just like that, they make him a villain. And the fact that Ted wasn't actually upset that he'd told the newspaper, he just didn't even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But then, so he had an excuse to get away with it. But he himself was still upset with Ted, even though Ted forgave him. He's like, nope, screw you, I'm leaving. Ted wasn't even angry at him. Like, he just was like, well, you did what you had to do. But he himself made himself a villain, even though he had every opportunity not to be. So I'm thinking the storyline, it's going to finish with something to do with Nathan.
And what's your favourite standout, like, individual episode that we got?
I think the Beard episode was the coolest, unique individual episode. But I think my favourite episode was when we finally got Roy Kent to agree to become a coach. And he was like running, and his like foot was sore, and he's like trying to like hobble his way to the stadium, and then he swapped his watch to get on like the bike to get there. I think that was that kind of tipped the series over and changed the whole dynamic when Roy came on board. So for me, that was my favourite episode, standout episode. I think the Beard.
I'd agree with that.
And you agree, like the Beard was the standout. What was your favourite episode? The same one?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Well, thank you for helping, Luke. Hope you enjoyed our review of Ted Lasso Season 2. Can't wait to see Season 3 next year. Let the Force be with you. Bye-bye.